The last step in this series of construction will be the hem. So make sure that you try your jacket on. It's exactly the length that you'd like it. If not, now is the time to make the adjustment. Also, please make sure that you have a hand baste that where you can really make sure when you line it up, especially if you have where you have that break where the vent is, you want to make sure that they're exactly the same length. Okay? Just keep in mind that my jacket has 2 vents in the side seams, so this is going to look a little bit different than you. But all you have to do is shift your thinking to the center back, and you'll be fine. So let's work on trimming off the canvas first. So what I'd like you to do is to go ahead and to mark kind of a scant 3/8 of an inch around your hem and up your vent, or vents if you have more than one. And we're going to trim off that little bit, just careful. What I'm going to have you do here, which is a little different than in bespoke tailoring, is I'm going to leave this canvas on and we're just going to fold it off. You always want to have double canvas throughout your hem, and typically a bias piece, an additional bias piece is put on here. But just in the best interest of time and materials, we're going to just use what we have. It's going to be fine. It's going to hang fine. You'll still have the double weight of the canvas, and you always want double weight in anything that you do. When you do any garment that requires a deep hem, you always want some bulk at the bottom to really, so that the garment hangs and keeps in shape. So you can go ahead now and trim off your canvas along your hemline and up your vent. Scant 3/8 of an inch. Once you have your horsehair trimmed back, what you're going to do is you're going to take, we're going to work on the vents right now, so not the hem but the vents. You're going to take, and where you've trimmed off that 3/8 of an inch, you're going to fold over fabric, and what you're going to do is to catch stitch it in place. So all of the processes that we do for this hemming, this next bit of hemming, will be done the same way. Meaning that, let me zoom in a little bit. Meaning that as you catch stitch, of course now I have my thread and I've waxed it. And I'm going to, again, the catch stitch is, remember you're sewing towards you to sew away from you. So make sure that you catch only that folded over allowance. So I'm not going through to the other side. I'm just catching that allowance. And then when I go in across from it, I'm just catching my hair canvas. This is going to be the same for the hem as well as these little hems. And we're going to be doing this on both sides of your vent. So start with cross stitching the allowance. Again, you've trimmed back your horsehair about 3/8 of an inch, and now you're going to fold that allowance on the vent seam here, and we're going to cross stitch it down. Going to do that for both the front and the back. Once you have catch stitched your little turnover for your vent, so this is the vent, you want to make sure you give it a really good press, and I'll show you why. Because down here at the hem, what's going to happen next is that we will turn the hem up and we'll cross stitch this down, and what the lining will come to here. So we want to make sure here that we have a nice clean finish. So that's what the catch stitching on the vent was about, that this is going to fold up. The lining will come to your hem here. It'll also, on the back piece, which this is, the lining will go from center back all the way over that 2-inch extension. So your lining will get attached down here and across the hem. So then, of course, this will be nice and cleanly finished. On the front part, the front vent is the one that gets folded over. So the back vent extends and the front vent folds over. So in the front, we'll do the same thing. We'll hem very carefully, making sure when you hem that your edges line up here, because this is also going to fold. So once you've hemmed it, catch stitched it down, hemmed it down, then what we're going to do is we're going to take it and we're going to fold it over. So you have a good weight, really. It adds weight to it. But this is why you want to make sure that all your fabric is nice and neat and lined up in through here. Okay? And then what happens here is that the back part of the vent goes over it. So that hides it. Okay, makes sense? Let me flip it over and show you. So on the front side, this is the front of my jacket here. The inside is where it's folded over the back, which is just extended. So one is technically an extension and one is kind of your fold. So that gives my jacket the ability to open, for me to sit without scrunching it. So step number 1 is to finish the edges. Press, 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 press them nice and tightly. And then step number 2 will be to go ahead and catch stitch hem your hem allowance. Hopefully it's nice and deep. You should have at minimum 1.5 inches. I have 2 inches on this one. And that's how your vent operates. The next and the last step, once you get all of that hand catch stitching done that you want to do, is on the inside. You want to take your vents at this point now and stitch them. So you're going to machine stitch across, making sure it's nice and flat across the seam. So that's going to hold them together. And that will complete your hem.